Hello everyone, and welcome to another video of language and communication session by SkillQuest. Today we are going to have discuss on a small topic, a very small topic. We will be discussing do's and don'ts while participating in a discussion or in a meeting. So let's go to the do's while we have to make sure that we are doing while we are in a meeting or a discussion. First one, listen to the context very carefully. The first thing we have to make sure is that we are listening to things very carefully. We know that we have 1 term and 2 ears. This is to listen before we speak. So just before making any comments or giving any suggestions, just assure that you understand the context and you listen to the person who is speaking to you or who just spoke just before you. Right? Just remember that and make sure you listen before you make any point. Second, do put down your thoughts on a paper. See, understand before going to the meeting itself, you will get an idea on what all things will be discussed in this meeting, right? So make sure you just write down some points, or you may have some suggestions, or you may have some points to make, or you will have to give some opinion regarding the decision which we might have already taken. So before going to the meeting itself, make sure you are just writing down or jotting down some points that you would like to make or any suggestions that you would like to give. So it should be pointed, it should be written in a paper, not necessarily in paper, even if it is mobile, it's fine. But that won't be fair if we use a mobile phone while in a serious discussion or meeting, right? So it's always good to have a diary with you, a book with you, which you can always use while you go for a meeting, right? And you have to initiate the discussion if you know the subject well. Suppose one particular point is taken for the discussion, and you are 100% sure that you know very well the point, you know very well what point is being discussed. In those cases, don't hesitate. You can initiate the conversation. Okay, so it's a do, and if you do this particular thing, it will make you feel more confident. You will feel very important in meeting if you start the conversation. But do it only if you know the context very well, if you know the topic very well, if you know the point very well, and you are 100% sure that the point that you're about to make will make sense. In that case only, do that. So moving forward to the next two. See, every time when you speak in a meeting, you have to assure that you are just speaking enough, quite enough. At a point of time, you're not supposed to talk more than 2 or 3 minutes, right? Try to make your point as short as possible, as brief as possible. This will help others to understand your point well, as well as you will look more professional and you will look more to the point while in a discussion or a meeting. Right? Let's move forward. Now, while doing the discussion, while in the meeting, if someone in your team are hesitant to speak, definitely give them chance to speak. As I mentioned earlier, you will be always aware about what are the things that's going to be discussed in the meeting. In those contexts, you can ask your friend or you can ask your team members to prepare certain things, and you should make them speak or give chance to them to speak on behalf of you or any point that you would like to put through. Being polite is very important in any discussion or meeting. Whether you are making your point or whether you are disagreeing with the other person who is present in the meeting, just be sure that you are telling your point very politely. Not if you are disagreeing with the other person, right? You have to express your disagreement politely. There are few terms which we have discussed in our class, where how you can change a normal sentence to a polite sentence. Now, last and the most important do. After each meeting, just write an email to at least one person who was present in that meeting about the points discussed in the meeting, right? We call the minutes of the meeting or meeting summary. It's always good, even though you are not responsible for taking down the minutes, or even though you are not responsible for sending the meeting summary. It's always good to type in an email on the points that you discussed in the meeting, and you can shoot that email to your immediate reporting officer or any of the team lead you may have. You can shoot an email to them point by point, mentioning the points discussed in the meeting or decisions made in the meeting. So these are the do's for a meeting. Let's move forward to the don'ts while in a meeting. First don't. Never initiate any discussion if you are not sure about that point. Whether it be technical, whether it be operational, or any of the communication that might have had taken place before. Never initiate a discussion if you are not sure about the point that you are going to talk. Never overspeak, never intervene, or never interrupt any person who is making a speech or who is telling their suggestion, right? Because it's important that, as I mentioned earlier, it's important to give others chance and listen them carefully. Never argue or shout during a meeting. Suppose you are in a meeting and you strongly disagree with some person. Even after you politely expressing your thoughts or your disagreement, still the same point is being discussed. Just don't argue at that point. You can always make your point clear after the meeting while writing the summary, as I mentioned. You can always clearly write that your disagreement with some point that have mentioned in the meeting. And you also, it's important that you should put forward those suggestions in the meeting, but make sure that it's not going to be a big argument. Never talk irrelevant things. If some topic is being discussed, try to stick on to that point. See, you may have many stories to tell or many excuses to give for any points or any questions asked to you. But never do that. Never speak irrelevant things. Only speak relevant points that is very well connected with the points that you are discussing in the meeting. Now, one important thing is that, see, while mentioning the do's, I told that you have to give chance to someone to speak, or you should ask your team members to speak. But do not put them in an embarrassing situation. If they do not know the point, or if they are not sure about the point, never ask them to speak. So only if they know the point and you're sure that they know the point, ask them to speak. Otherwise, don't put them in an embarrassing situation. Right? It's always best to ask them to speak if and only if they know the subject. Now, the last and the most important don't. Never display low self-confidence with shaky voice and trembling hands. Right? This happens only if you are making a point that you are not sure about. If you are sure about a point and you know the subject, you can speak confidently. So the last don't is that never display low self-confidence. Always be very confident while participating in a meeting. So that's all for the day. So we have discussed do's and don'ts that you have to follow while you are in a meeting. Thank you everyone and see you in the next video.